talking about, so Kimaya last time covered integrated waterscapes, what at a larger levels, where you talk about governance, you talk about city, you talk about site, and what as an individual you need to do, right? So it was overall picture of painting a picture at a large scale. While I am going to focus on the site and your thesis, basically site planning, what are the strategies, and how would you go about doing your thesis? Because all of you are just now delving into it. Your first submission is going to happen on 31st, where you're going to give your aim and objectives regarding your thesis and all, right? So to help you along, okay, because the end product of your book needs to have the site in place, the analysis in place, so that the next semester, 10th semester, would kind of, just jump into the design because your things are ready. So the whole aim of this services lectures would be to help you through that. And I don't know what Sandeep, you are being an ecological person. I don't know how you help with the services, but yeah, you can join in for the landscape and how the integrated landscape can become kind of a services, orientation. So yeah,
Sure, sure.
so starting off with this, we will go with the site. Okay, can you see my 1 second? Huh? Yeah. So guys, 1 second. I don't know why this thing is
Yeah, we can see the site planning,
okay. Fine, but I can't. Okay, fine. Yeah. Okay, fine. I got it. Yeah. So basically, guys, the site planning is divided into three phases that Kimaya talked about last time. I'm just going to say it at this level. First of all, it's going to be at the, I mean, you divide it at research, you have analysis, and then you have your synthesis. And this is not site planning. I'm just talking about your thesis, and then we jump into the planning. And where the site planning will happen. Okay, if I'm going fast, please let me know. I tend to speak a little fast. So research is a place where 1 second. Research is a place where you will be, doing data collection, where you will be actually exploring the kind of interest you have, what kind of questions you will through, and then doing research based on those this thing, right? So that is basically your research, where you talk about concepts, core questions, data collection, methodology. Okay, and that's exactly where site planning will start into it, because kind of pointless when you don't. And I mean, of course, you can do the question and all that thing, but when it comes to the architectural manifestation, this will be the first thing that you will be doing it, right? The analysis will be, you have collected the data, fine, great. But then what about that data? You need to then interpret that data in your own way, and then come out with the conclusion that will give you some kind of idea to go ahead. Secondly, you need to prove that whether what you studied or what you analyzed is correct. So you need to do some testing, or people call it as a site testing, where they actually go on the site and consider do some experiments. Okay, where this can happen. And then finally, you work out your effective solutions that work out for you. And then finally, you have your program. That is your final step, synthesis and the design. Okay, so your entire project of your thesis, black book bolo, ya final portfolio in the SEM 10 would be based on this kind of a study that you would go ahead. And the next 31st July, where you have your first thesis kind of a submission, is basically going to work on your concepts and the core questions and what are the aim and objectives of your study. Uh, the scale of the project, of course, we all know has it can be like, if the project is large and is liable to affect a larger kind of an area, would be at the regional level. Well, I can go one step ahead, and what Kimaya said last time was global level, right? So where the impact, certain ecological impact could be felt across the sea. Okay, so desertification, the what do you call, lots of these current situations that happens in the oceans affect the weather on this side or the other side of the coast. So we have these various phenomena which will affect you. So obviously global is there, and climate change is a global phenomena. So yes, you do take that into part, but let's come to the regional, where the project is can affect. So if suppose you are planning, say, a large airport, okay, like what Navi Mumbai is doing, it's going to affect that region, right? The whole MMRDA is going to get affected. So it's kind of a regional intervention where it can impact large areas. So, and accordingly, your study should be for that, right? How the traffic will be affected, housing prices will be, what infrastructures or amenities will prop up because of these things. Suddenly, the prices shoot up because you have such a big intervention happening, and that is exactly what is happening. Okay, when DMC corridors was planned, Delhi Mumbai corridor, the same thing started happening in various kind of states where suddenly the land prices started booming up and people invested a lot of money and all that kind of stuff happened. Especially if it is related to infrastructure planning or facility, then definitely the impacts are going to be large felt and one needs to cater to that. So your project, whatever is your interest and whatever the final interpretation would be, you would need to start with this kind of analysis or this kind of data gathering. Okay. City level, definitely you will need to go into the city bylaws, regulations, policies, what all things need to be taken care of at that level. Is it under a CRZ, especially if it is a Mumbai based, okay, or if it is falling into an ecosystem sensitive area. All these kind of questions you will need to ask, and I have actually given you one example. Aage jaake you will see that I've taken just one aspect and I've asked some 10-20 questions just regarding to one thing. Similar questions bank has to be prepared for every kind of data that you gather. Okay, and that's how you will actually gather the data. And finally, the meso level, call it a neighborhood or a little more closer to your site, where this is completely contextual. Okay, it's pointless for me to speak about it because it depends what kind of topography, what kind of landforms you have, what kind of other facilities, infrastructure, all kind of stuff will matter, whether it's urban, whether it's rural. So meso level is something completely contextual. As per your site, you need to do your data collection. What are the elements of your what do you call analysis? These are some of the things that will support your research, right? So obviously there are many, okay, and I'm going one by one. So you have social, economics, environmental. You will have infrastructural, amenity. You might have something called as history. So when I talk about social, so you have a site or you have a question, okay, whatever that interest may be. Some of you might have heritage issues or, I mean, questions, or some of you might have larger ecological queries and trying to figure out what to do about that. So these are, it is environmental question, but it does have social impact, right? So when we talk about sustainability, it's not just about environment. It's also about economics and social. So everywhere these kind of questions or these kind of pockets, actually you kind of make these envelopes and start putting your questions in it, so that it finally comes together and gives you an idea about your site and what you do about that site, right? So in the social studies, what all things will come, the demography, कितने number के लोग हैं, उनका density क्या है. So maybe the demography is very large, but then the density tells you that they are spread apart or they are congested in one area. So that definitely gives you, because the density is high, definitely it means that it's a kind of a congested area or kind of a urban area, or maybe you can say the land prices are high. Okay, that's why people are staying together, so that the amenities are closer by. The 10 different interpretation can come out of this. So just knowing demography will probably not give you an idea about the area, but knowing the density will probably give you the idea about what and how and what will happen in future about that area. Ethnicity kya hai? In that large mass of people, are there community tensions there, or is there communal tensions there, or all is happy and fine? So all this ethnicity, communities, not probably will not help your project all the time, but it's good to know. Sometimes it helps, sometimes it don't. Okay, but these are just generic kind of thoughts I'm putting out, so that you will understand when you start your site planning and all that. Literacy ratio, sex ratio, occupation, cultural leanings, all this will kind of help you to understand the area into which you are planning or where your site is, right? When I talk about economics, definitely what are the main occupations? So occupation, when I say, it's obviously primary, secondary, tertiary. What is the kind of occupation that is there in where your site is situated, right? Is it primary? Primary means anything that is related with directly with the nature. So is it like fishing? Fishing comes under primary. Mining hai, yeah, anything that's directly related with nature would come into the primary occupation. Secondary is service related, tertiary service related, and secondary is manufacturing kind of, where you actually man-made products are done. And so those will come under the secondary. So where the industries and the offices and all that will happen, while tertiary completely deals with the service sectors, where no manufacturing is done, but the services are provided. So financial services will come. So finance comes under the tertiary sector and is one of the largest growing sectors. So suppose if your site is in Mumbai and you know that this is happening, then and you know the area where you are designing, then definitely what kind of occupation, what kind of economy is there will happen. Okay, many of you are taking small rural towns, many of you are taking larger areas. This will help you. What are the resources that gets you the main occupation? The resources में सब कुछ आता है. Not only just the material, but even the human resources. Are they available? Or the migration is happening, or the people who are there, are they trained enough? Okay, so all these kind of resources would be then directly related with the demography when I'm talking about human resources. Markets, okay, and I don't mean markets like actual markets, but the markets at the larger global level. Is your city or the area is connected at that level? So in some of the areas, you might not even have banks. I mean, even that facility. So won't that affect your planning? And then you plan a project which is kind of a large. Then you just need to give it a little thought. What will happen? Because let's be a little practical. We can't just be a little vague when you are designing at that level. And this is your thesis, okay? It's not something that you dealt with third year and second year, where we could, be a little bit more lenient and dreamy. Banking facilities, industry growth rate, all these things will be coming under the economics. Okay, actually, census does provide all the information. I'm not asking you to go there and actually do the study. That's a very planning kind of exercise. But yeah, this kind of gives you an idea about the economic condition of that area. And environmental, I really don't need to talk. Kimaya has talked enough. I have talked enough in services and in the EVS. But just generically, I'm just saying it needs climatic concerns. Geology, one has to know what are the kinds of the soil hai, strata hai, and a substrata. You need to know what is happening there. Whether the basements karoge to shoring lagega ki nahi, because of the soil condition there. So all those things you will need to figure out before you even think about doing anything there or intervening there. Hydrology, what is the hydrology? Is the soil table high or low? Are there aquifers there? Is there a nearby water body there? Will the water body be impacted by anything on the site that you do? All these questions you will be asking when you jump into the site. Biodiversity kya hai, flora fauna system, both. Okay, slope analysis, and believe me guys, there are many more. I'm just taking few, and as in when you do your site analysis, I'm sure as you come across, you will realize that yes, this also needs to be asked, and you will do it. Okay, and then you have your guides to help you out. Right? Why is this repeated? Okay. Then you have heritage, economics, and infrastructure. Okay, sorry, this is a repeat. I don't know why this got here, but it's a repeat. So the next slide is talking about elements of analysis. Maybe your site is near heritage. Okay, maybe I think there is some mistake in this. Again, economics, and I think I've not loaded the correct PPT. But anyway, let me go through this. So you have heritage. Obviously, you need to think about. It's not just about built heritage. There are some unbuilt, in the sense intangible, where the culture or the collective memory or the landscape. Probably those are even considered at some. Not exactly the heritage point, but something that relates to the past and people relate to it as a memory. So in that condition, and if your site falls in that category, then what kind of projects would you imagine there? But you wouldn't know that unless you gather, you talk to people. The methodology applied for getting this information could be primary or it could be secondary, where you get the data from the site, or you actually go and do the interview, right? So say the data says, just this is one example where I'm saying that suppose you collected the data, okay, and I'm giving you this example for you to understand how the analysis of the entire thing is done. So say you collected this data, and it says that the demography of that, whatever the site where you have chosen, is some third tier, fourth tier city, okay, very tiny thing, okay. it has extremely skewed sex ratio. Okay, it got very bad monsoon. Okay, low scale industries. What would be the interpretation? What would be the analysis of this data? Okay, it would mean that because of the bad monsoon, okay, low scale industry here, that means it's obviously agriculture, and it's a bad monsoon. That means the economic levels are really low, and that means the people from the place have migrated out, and that's why you have skewed sex ratio. Okay, because the men of the family have moved out to make money somewhere out to feed their family to survive. Okay, and that's how you will come across the analysis this way. Okay, so this is just one example I'm giving. Okay, there can be so many scenarios created when you collect the data and start interpreting. Okay, so we ask you na कि हमेशा आप data लेके बैठो मत, convert it into figures, convert it into charts, so that it's easier for you to understand. Whenever things happen in visually, it's easy for you to understand how that happens, and that's how every bar chart, every chart, or every sketch should have something as a conclusion, as an inference, which will kind of give you an idea why you are doing that drawing in the first place. Okay, especially when you are doing data gathering. Okay, and these are some of the basic site planning guidelines, and now we come actually to the site planning. Okay, first of all, do not harm your site. Okay, what does this mean? Hmm? What does this mean?
Take care of the existing flora fauna if there are any, and
Precisely. Do not just go and jump there and start digging. Okay, or divert the. And why we have Lavasa as an example. Okay, we have our present airport as an example where Mithi was diverted. We have a new Panvel airport that was delayed for so long. The reason of delaying was there was a definite diversion of the river. I forgot the name of the river, but that river needed to be diverted, and that could have caused flood. And so there was this delay happened.
Kalundre.
Kalundre. So, and because of these major ecological, I would say, uprooting of that area, the things were delayed. Okay, and I don't know why it is still agreed, because it doesn't mean that the river is not going to get delayed. It's still going to be diverted. So, uh, but anyways, what I'm trying to say is, if you are having a site which is ecologically sensitive, or it has these kind of features, then one needs to be very much aware of not harming the site. Okay, you need to take care of the environment, not just the environment but also the economy. हो सकता है कि your site is providing some kind of means and क्या बोलते हैं, some kind of means of earning to some other communities. Is there a way you can protect that? So these are some of the issues that, as I said, it's contextual when it comes to the site and meso level or the neighborhood level. You will have to be a little bit more careful and sensitive to these questions that will crop up. Okay. Or is there a way where you can regenerate ecosystem services through sustainable design? So these are some of the questions and thoughts that should be at the uppermost level, right? The second is precautionary principle. If suppose you do have to do something, okay, chalo bhai, I know that I have this issue, but even then, if I do have to do that, what will be the decision making process? That has to be a little bit more precautionary, bit cautious, okay, bit more sensitive and sensible, where you know that if you do something, it is going to create some irreversible changes, then definitely that decision should be put on hold and go for something that can create regenerative ecosystems or regenerative systems. Okay, forget ecosystems, but any system which will work for the site as well as for the society. Yeah, so that is what precautionary principle definitely means. Basically, you have to examine the full क्या बोलते हैं, alternative or the range of alternatives. And believe me, guys, it could mean no action. Okay, that is also one of the action or precautionary principle where you say, no, I don't need to do this, because if I do this, then this can be the resultant thing. So yeah, I mean, that can be one of the action. And be open to the contributions from all क्या बोलते हैं, from all sides, all stakeholders. Okay, the stakeholders could be many, so consider this as one of the what do you say, the main point of decision making. Okay, the other site planning main guideline would be support a living process. What does that mean? Okay, you need to continuously when we plan, we assume certain things, right? There are these certain assumptions. like demography, okay, like simple examples that you have this. But is there a chance that something can happen and the demography increases, or chalo forget demography, demography is at a very large scale. मैं सिर्फ आपके site की बात कर रही हूँ, where you say that हो सकता है future expansions can happen. Is there a possibility where my project can grow into something bigger? Okay, so think of this as a living entity and think of it as something that will increase or maybe change the value and adapt to other changes that can happen. Demography is just one example I'm giving, okay, where the you might say, okay, I need to go for the second phase, or maybe because of the popularity of the program, people have started coming here, and I need to grow. So then you need to support that kind of vision that that you will plan with, okay. Uh, Design with nature and culture. I don't really need to speak more about this. This speak in itself. Do not harm the site में उसका ही सब काम आ जाता है. Respect the local, regional, and the global context that I already talked about, right? Use the system thinking approach. This is one very interesting kind of approach where Kimaya already touched upon last time, where it was on a larger kind of a arena that was there, where basically it's a process of, you know, what do you say, understanding how one thing will influence another, okay, within this whole picture. I hope I'm right, but this is exactly what it means. When I say system thinking, it's like instead of thinking kit of parts and like layering the project, okay, I would think of the larger picture, okay, of what my project or intervention is going to create an impact largely. So that is a system thinking approach, one can say, okay. And examples, if I have to give you, would be obviously ecosystem, okay, in which various elements, आप कोई भी element ले लो, air है या water है या movements, biodiversity, anything you say, they work together. It's not that the water will channel its path so that the plants are destroyed, or plants will grow that the water is stopped. You know, it all works to help each other. Now, if that kind of systems we approach, where the site helps the other and the other helps sites, I think that would be the win-win situation in all. You know, I mean, it would be something really we need to learn as human beings, because what we tend to do is a little selfish and we just do what. Oh God, my battery is low. Hey, one minute, guys. I just need to charge my mobile. Just a minute. Give me a minute.
Sure, sure. Minal, if you're okay, can I tell them an example of systems thinking
Oh,
approach,
please, please,
or
please go
rather the
ahead.
lack of it? Okay, okay,
Oh,
sure.
please, please.
Yeah, okay. So, you know this place called Diva? Diva is just across Mumbai. I'm sure your class knows it better than anyone else in this college, right? So, Diva में जब वो 2005 का floods हुआ था, उसके पहले तक, like if you actually Google Earth पे जाके देखोगे तो early 2000s में you'd find that, Diva was a very small village and there was a railway station, of course, there was a junction, and that is it. But post that 2005, 7, 8, 9, 11, 12, ये सब देखोगे तो you'll see that suddenly there is this huge urbanization that's happening there. Like बहुत सारे like migrant workers के लिए जो single कमरा वाला housing बनता है ना, एक लंबा गाला which has patra on the top and shutters, and people started living. So ऐसा एक sudden trend दिखता है. Now, if you actually go to the depths of it, you'll understand that, and you'll wonder as to why Diva, like when the other places are still empty, but Diva is like, emblematic of this development. The reason being that when that huge flood happened in 2005, वो सारा creek जो है, Ullas River Creek है, that water basically flooded onto their farmlands. And that water is basically brackish. Brackish means it's salty in nature. So what happened was floods happened. Everybody lost their money, right? They lost their movable goods, television, sab kharab ho gaya. They had to literally reinvent their lives from scratch. Now their occupation on the farmlands were basically getting threatened because us saal jo the fasal jo came out, the harvest was really bad. The next year also it was bad. The next year it was even bad because that salt water had kind of intruded into the soil. And that was a time when some developers kind of came in and said, "Arey, why don't you give it to us? We'll make these galas for migrant housing. Nala Sopara में खूब चलता है. आप लोग भी मेहनत मतलब पैसा बना सकते हो. Why do you want to kind of depend on, farming?" So if you look at it, these two things are completely disjointed, right? I mean, one wouldn't even know that one is connected to the other. One looks like a socio-economic problem, The other is actually an ecological problem. But the truth is, all of this is one system, and they're all kind of interconnected. So yeah, and that's so essentially in systems thinking, you have to be aware that that seemingly unconnected entities may also be part of a larger system, and it's like a spider web. Like if you tug one end, all the other points of intersection will also kind of move, in the 3D plane, right? So they'll all kind of have an impact. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Over to you, Mina. Thanks.
Thanks, Sandeep. That helped. So what we are trying to say is it's a discipline, if you call it as a discipline, okay, for seeing whole, okay, rather than parts. And generally in architecture, we tend to see it in layers, no? Because I need to put on layers of services and construction and design and blah, 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 and all that. And then but ideally, as an architect, as a coordinator, your job is to imagine the building, okay, and then try to fit everything in. Taking care that my construction is not harmed because of the services that has to come, or because the services आया इसके लिए I compromise on structure. ऐसे तो नहीं होता है ना. Otherwise the things will not work, it will collapse, the stability is compromised, and we don't do compromise, okay, especially in security, stability and safety of the buildings, okay. And then definitely you get paid because of the aesthetic reasons. If that doesn't come out well, the client is not happy, so you are anyway fighting. So that is, I guess, a kind of, you see the whole picture and then start putting layers in. But this has to go outside the site as well. Don't be so selfish and say, and there is one popular belief that goes, I mean, and I strongly believe in it. There's nothing called as an island, I mean, everything is connected. Even an island is connected to different waters, and then the water is connected to the mainland, and the mainland. So that, it's like nothing is island in this world, okay? Everything is connected to something. I think there is a one very good program on Netflix, Connected. I think you should see that. It's beautiful program which kind of gives you the idea about why desertification is happening, or things like how deserts can impact, say rainforest. I mean, it's amazing. So they have actually shown the link of how Amazon is getting affected by Sahara. So I mean, it's really good. So this program, if you can, if you have Netflix, please go and see it. Yeah, so that was use system thinking approach. Obviously collaborative and ethical approach, which Kimaya did touch upon: governance, networking, talking to people, spreading your ideas, seeing that you talk to so many stakeholders of the site, okay. It could be the users, the municipality, the environmentalist, the economist, the sociologist. I'm not saying that it might be required, okay, but if it is a larger public good program, say you are doing a large infrastructure program, then yes, along with the set of architectural consultants that we all deal with, there will be another set of people we will need to deal with. So that collaborative approach. So if you see larger kind of interventions in the city, where a lot of examples were shown last time, Kim, I actually explained to you the process where the design charades happen, okay, where people come together, they put in their 2 bits, okay, and everything is gathered, collected, and then a conclusive kind of a decision is taken where everybody agrees to that, right? So it's like a combined decision taken by a larger section of society, rather than just, as an architect or a planner or anything. So that kind of helps to a brainwave or brain bashing or whatever you call thinking tank or whatever. So that kind of approach to a design or to a site will definitely help you to preserve or rather enhance the elements that existed on the site. Okay. Use decision making hierarchy of preservation, conservation, and regeneration. We just talked about it, so I will not really go into it. But yeah, if you know that you have certain important, say, a valuable kind of an asset on your site, which will come out of your analysis, then try to preserve it or conserve it, okay, and go ahead with your planning. And finally, the thing would be you provide a regenerative system, which is same as do not harm. So they are diametrically opposite. So the moment you say do not harm, obviously that means you provide things that will not harm the site, right? So this was basically, and along with this, guys, let me tell you, These are some of the basic principles, okay, which happens at a very, very proactive level and all this. But there is something also called as ethical, where an architect comes into the picture with his own set of ideas, leadership, where he or she as a person will foster these kind of environmental stewardship, you can say, okay, which will help them to, um, take the project in that particular line or direction. The next slide is then we start the site planning. Okay, till now it was basically on a larger scale. Okay, beyond little bit of site. Okay, not at the city level. We already discussed that yes, the city level पे अगर है आपको करना है तो what all you need to do, you need to figure out where the land and as we progress I will be talking about what questions that you need to cater to when you go at that level. But what policies and all that, land use hai ya zoning hai, all that thing you will have to start. Okay, site level, I think third or fourth of your submission, okay, I guess in September, you are supposed to do this, okay, where you are supposed to come with a site, where will be the site, justification of site, kaise karoge. So how do you choose a site? What are the criteria of choosing a site? Can a site be anything, any piece of land? Okay, chalega, chalo, ye dikh raha hai, or can it be a hypothetical? It can be if it's a fictional kind of a project, but let's say this is a thesis where you are doing a research, where you are trying to figure out a issue that is not even an issue, a care that you have, okay, or a concern that you have regarding whatever your concern is, and you are doing some research, and then you say fictional, to thoda problem hai na. So let's be a little pragmatic, and while we choose a site, we need to say that, as I say, do not harm. Okay, don't choose a site which is greenfield. Okay, choose a site which is easily accessible, urban, brownfield, greyfield, jo bhi bolo aap, right? So that will help you in establishing the point of where the site would be, right? Access and layout planning. How is the site accessible? Is the transport possible there? Sustainable transport from the site and to the site. It should not be some far off place where I have to take cab. There is no other option but to take a cab. It will be a difficult for people to come there and kind of, so choosing a site is equally important, right? So some of you might be taking heritage, or some of you might be taking some way of kind of a rural area. The concern might be all right, okay, and but at the same time you need to figure out that if this is not there, then what you need to do as an architect or as a planner to go ahead. Okay, water management, landscape, minimize waste. So all these things were some of the things that you need to figure out at the site level. Okay, at the building level, obviously once you have the site, you will figure out how do you place the location of the building on your site. What are the design passive strategies, which we already done in the first and the second year. Any renewable energies resources possible hai ki nahi, and I'll be showing you an example where they have done wonderfully well of actually using not only during the site, once the site is there and they've applied renewable university energy, but also while doing the construction, they have used renewable energy. So it's really amazing. What kind of materials, energy embodied, local material, efficiency, and when I say efficiency, it's not about just using the local material. It's also how you use the local material. Is there a way where you can even say कि local material है मतलब क्या waste करने का? नहीं ना? So there are ways of using it. How do you then economize the use of the materials, and that you need to. Footprint is another issue that one has. Because I have the site, let's spread out, So always there is this fight. Even at the planning level, when you see on one side Corbusier is talking about mile high city, while on the other side Frank Lloyd Wright is saying you go for broad acre kind of a concept. Which is good, which is bad? Okay, today we agree that mile high is better sustainably, energy resource, because every services and active components of the energy are at one place. Okay, they don't spread out, and hence it can be a better solution for the environment. Okay, now let's do the site choice में आप क्या करोगे? Okay, site choice, layout, transport, ecology, water, landscape, and waste. Okay, so as I jotted down, these are some of the place where you will investigate when you choose a site. Accessibility है कि नहीं? Okay, brownfield है कि नहीं, adaptive reuse वाला site है क्या नहीं. So if it is a heritage, or even if it is not a heritage, okay, suppose you are like what mill of Bombay's are being used, okay, they are heavy structures, old time structures, stable structure. Why would you want to bring them down? So what they have done, like what you can see in Phoenix, okay, or any other mill that they have taken up here, they have they have adaptive reuse of those. So some part of the building are retained as it is, while the others, which are in a very dilapidated state, they are taken down and built something else. So is there a possibility where you can do that? It's always better that whatever is existing, you use that and then add on, or you put another extension to that, right? Easy access hai ki nahi, public transportation, amenities, infrastructure, is all this available on your site? Because that will be a very strong way in proposing a public project. Suppose if it is a private kind of a thing, okay, I can manage it. But if it is a public where you expect so many public to come in and say there is no water, then that will be a problem, right? So then you will have to start thinking about that. And even if you say that, okay, I'm going to go completely off the grid, then your half of your program will be just service oriented, because then you will have to provide for the water for those many number of people who are coming there. So yes, it does matter. Then the layout of the site kaisa hai, okay, cluster, small footprint, high density, open spaces around, okay, transport. I really don't need to speak about this. I'm sure you know what I'm trying to say, but these are some of the touch points that you will need to go about when you choose a site, okay. Landscape. So when you go on a site and you know what kind of landscape is there, you will understand what it is. And Sandeep will be there to take one of the lectures where he can elaborate on that. Okay, where say you see a nice growth of trees, that means the soil is good. But you see some scrubby looking grass, okay, which is dry, or you see the soil and you see that it doesn't have the retention capacity. That means that it's impossible to grow a normal level of. So then you need to do something about the soil. So all these decisions will come out of your observation, data collection, analysis, and then finally what kind of strategy you would apply, right? So the steps would be these, okay, right? When you talk about building, how would you location? How would you then, when I talk about, this was the previous one about the site, let's talk about the building. In that location, the streets, earthwork, balancing, in the sense, as I told you, if it is a very clay kind of a soil, or if it is a very sandy kind of a soil, would you plan a basement? Is it wise? Okay, because and if the site is very narrow, is basement a good option or not a good option, is something you will come by conclusion when you do the geological survey, or you know that these are the conditions of the soil which will not retain or kind of create tremendous pressure, then accordingly the strategy. So it's a decision making factor, so you need to know this, okay. How do you do the limited disturbances on the site, do not harm wala principle, okay. Orientation, shape, material, heating, cooling, I really do need to go into this. Resources may definitely, after your human and economic resources will be all your environmental. Human is not your concern right now at the thesis level, okay. We assume there are no problems, we are getting labor cheap and nice, okay. So absolutely not your point of concern, neither is the budget, thank God, okay. In real life, that two things are really kind of control your projects, right? But so here at this level, let's focus on resources like material, wind, solar, water management, okay. Any other kind of resources that you can think of can go here. Reuse, okay. Or can you make buildings with say future expansions, or is there a chance of adaptive reuse, or is there a chance of making a building that can be thought of in future as it can. So flexibility and space planning comes into the picture. So that is what will make your building regenerative. Remember the one of the principle, how do you make your building adjust to the future, adapt to the future? So that is another way of looking at your project. uh, After you do your analysis, okay, I cannot set data without knowing my analysis, है ना? मुझे पता होना चाहिए कि साइट पे क्या मुझे मिलने वाला है. After I know that this is what my site consists of, what it has, what it does not have, and what I need to do. When you have this kind of data in front of you, analysis in front of you, then you set certain targets, okay. And obviously I don't need to, I mean, these are obvious target, but sometimes in that ambition of design and ambition of representing, we tend to forget the basics. Okay, like simple thing like we forget to show things like how do you manage energy. So I see drawings emerging where you see lavish buildings, okay, no thought to clustering, no thought to energy, huge humongous corridors, okay, and they are internal corridors where I have to light, because otherwise there is no chance of any light reaching there, and the whole day it will be on light. And what is the need of having 5 meters of corridor? Okay, so these are some of the things as an architect one needs to now start thinking. Okay, this was just one example I gave, of the drawings that we still receive of this quality. So energy, water, integrated landscape, material, your site selection and design, okay, has an impact as diverse as surrounding. Surrounding could be anything, okay, it could be people, it could be wildlife, okay, but it does have the impact, and you need to know this impact. And all this thing what is written here, one or the other way it's going to get an impact. So आप सोचोगे if I use shower bath, क्या फर्क पड़ता है, हजारों लोग करते हैं, but I think it starts from one personal choice of what you take a decision of, and दूसरे करे ना करे, दूसरे मर्डर करते हैं, हम थोड़ा करते हैं. So it's like setting up an example like that, right? So the other things are construction practices. So what kind of practices you adopt? There are various kinds. Okay, so there you would have come across. In fact, we have COA. I think it is COA planned. Didi contractors lecture on 13th of July. I don't know, 17th July, where and her practice was completely different from say Uttam Jain, okay, or say from Rahul Mehrotra. So the people have different practices, and one needs to know what kind of practice you are interested in and go for it. Uh, Indoor air quality, okay, ambience, economic performance of your site, okay, how it is going to enhance the area, and is it possible to have that program there? So even suggesting a program there after your entire thing is something that will be strongly related with the context. So please have all this thing in mind when you plan up, okay. Uh, right, and when I say and this will be the these are the what do you say result of not having this, okay. So when I say do not harm, okay, so when I say targets, yahi the targets. So this is an example of target. Avoid making major changes, minimize development, cluster building together, maintain good built unbuilt, okay. So this is about setting a target for do not harm. I am going to have cluster building. Okay, I'm not going to have very large, lavish courtyards spread out. Or if the courtyards are going to be there, then they're going to be green instead of paved. Are some of the decision making that you will have to come when you say do not harm. Okay, the reason of repeating this slide and putting the targets on is to just to give an idea. I'm not giving all the ideas. Okay, just few things. Okay, like say precautionary principle. So I will not divert the water channel. Okay, or if I have to, then what all things one needs to, and what precaution one needs to, because water can get angry, okay, if it is diverted. And if there is a clearing of forest, are you replacing the regrowing the trees, or are you then replanting them? Or you say okay, replanting, say generally, let me tell you, the process of replanting is pretty costly and not very successful all the time. So if you say it's not successful, then at least I will try and plant more trees like this on my site. So these are some of the steps or the targets you will set for your drawings, or sorry, for your project, and accordingly you will make your drawings. That where will you then give me that landscape area, okay. This was done with the design, obviously. Choose native planting, okay. If you have streams nearby, give the buffer areas. We call them as riparian edges. These are some of the conclusions or some of the decisions that you will make, or set the targets for that, for your site planning. If I say system thinking, make connections between natural ecology of the site and the natural system, both within and beyond the site. So it's not that what you do on your site will be contained within site, okay. There are certain elements which will go beyond and create issues, which Sandeep just explained. Okay, there was no reason why the builders came up and started doing that to the farming and to the kind of river overflow, right? But these kind of joining the dots is our job. So yeah, these are some of the things which I meant by the targets. Okay, now target set हो गया. So आपने analysis किया, you had the data, you did the analysis, okay, you had the targets, everything is now you set up the strategy. What all kind of strategies one would adopt for you to achieve the targets, okay? And these are, I'm not going to repeat them, okay? Please go through them. They are more or less what I am trying to say, that will give you the target. So when the target says, I am not going to divert the river, okay? Suppose if that is one of the thing, okay? Then you would plan your building in a way that the river flows through it, like what Frank Lloyd Wright decided. He's not going to shift the stream, okay? He built it on the stream and allowed the water to go beyond, okay? Of course, there would be some displacement of the water that did happen, okay? But I guess it was a pretty large and a wild kind of an area which allowed that kind of displacement, which would not allow that in an urban area. So you need to then take plan. It should not flood these Bajuka sites or the surrounding sites or whatever, right? So that has to be well planned. So that would be one of the strategy. If I say massing and connectors, now what does this mean? Okay, how do I mass and how do I put the connectors between the two masses where you are talking about saving energy? Because if the more the spread out or more is the massing, larger is the energy input. So then if the energy is one of the target, you would then do this very, very sensitively. Okay, if I say scale and proportion, same thing. Okay, so this on the left hand side are some of the things you learn in TOD. These are some of the things that you learn as a design principle. Okay, while on the right hand side is what we talk about ecological targets, where we say that yes, I have my design intentions very clear, and this is how I'm going to vision, or this is how I'm going to plan my building, where one of them is rhythm and repetition, or say regulating lines, which is what falling waters is. It does have these very beautiful horizontal lines and a kind of a cutting cross line that happens, which gives it the identity. So आपका जो भी है, whatever your design ideas, okay, it could fall within this, and there are many. Okay, I just took few. Based on this, you will achieve your design, but based on the right hand side wala material, you will achieve your targets, because that is the targets you have set for your site. Okay, similarly you can have design targets. Okay, but I'm not going into the design. TOD is already doing that for you, so I'll not repeat myself here. But these are some of the targets that you would set for your site, right? And the strategy. So if suppose if I site with shading devices, so this is one of the strategy you would apply to, because your energy and the resources में बोला था आपने कि I want to reduce the energy. अब energy कैसे आप reduce करोगे? You want to reduce lesser air conditioning, or say maybe lighting. So if you give me good windows and if you give me good shading device, I assure my building gets good daylight but lesser heat. Okay, so I get lesser light load and lesser AC load. So if that is the way you figure out your fenestration, then you can say that you have achieved your targets which you have set. Now those are the targets that I had generally give. Okay, there can be many others. Okay, and as I said, it's completely contextual, based on the story or the analysis that you have of your site. It can evolve as a complete different story and the target. So yeah, I mean, I'm just giving some of the examples. Okay, is there any question so far, so forth? No? Okay, these are just some of the drawings that one needs to be done when we do the analysis of the site, where I'm sure you have done this in the previous designs, okay, where you take a sun path, and, but हम ऐसे ही करके छोड़ देते हैं. When we see the design ना, कोई relation नहीं होता है. I mean, this is, I've been seeing it in second year, third year, fourth year. Hopefully this will not happen in the thesis. So that was the reason why I'm showing this. But I know you know this, okay? But I would say sheets बढ़ाने के लिए, drawings बढ़ाने के लिए, please don't do this exercise for the heck of doing it. If you are doing this analysis of the site where you say that this is the position of the sun streaming onto my site, then please adopt your shape of the buildings, orientation of the building, fenestration of the building accordingly. Okay. And then when after doing this, when we see the building coming out, building has no relationship to the analysis. So this should be at the back of the mind. And it otherwise there is no point in doing this. It's just like looking beautiful pictures and having no meaning. Okay, no content, no substance. So ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए. Similarly, this is talking about the views. It is talking about the wind or the other ecological surfaces that are there. Okay, and this is the kind of a palette, material palette that one needs to prepare if you are really want to be clear about how your design is going to be. Okay, as well as the resource efficiency is going to be. So you need to have these kind of drawings ready to help you to achieve your targets and your and these are the strategies of achieving those targets. Okay, some of the drawings which will give you the analysis of the public of the transportation. And transportation is one thing where you can ask like innumerable questions. Okay, and it impacts the site so much. Like for an example, I don't know whether I give this example to your class or some other class. Okay, but NCPA. Okay, NCPA mein suppose it's a late night show. And do you know what is NCPA में crowd कैसे आता है? I hope you know that, right? It's like all posh crowd. But especially this is a problem when it's a night show, okay? And at 12 o'clock when the auditorium doors open and people stream out, you would see that the people would zoom off with their own cars. The people who don't have the cars or who depend on the public transport, okay, they are really in a pit because hello. Uh, hello. If somebody wants to ask something, okay.
No, Meenal, ignore. I think it's by mistake someone unmuted and then.
Okay.
Please
okay.
continue.
Yeah. So NCPA में क्या होता है? If you are depending on the public transportation, then you wait and wait because no taxi wala will take you to either Churchgate station or VT station. Okay, and I have faced this numerous times. I have visited NCPA so many times. And all the time this is the thing, and I don't have a car by choice. I don't have a car. Okay, so this is something that that is a persistent problem there, and people have complained there. Okay, when we went for one of our case studies, when we took our students there, and jab humne ye pucha tha, to one of the guy who was a little friendly there, by the way, they have a huge attitude in NCPA guys. So one of the guy was saying, yeah, we are thinking of, the BMC was thinking of getting one bus there because there are no bus lines on the marine lines going right till there. So you are in a complete soup because you have to take a taxi and you have to go to Dadar, okay, or you have to go to beyond VT somewhere where they can leave you, or you have to go to wherever you are coming from. Okay, so take a taxi because the taxi wala knows कि यहाँ पे कोई बस है नहीं और इनको जाने के लिए हम ही है. It is kind of दादागिरी. So when you have these kind of possibilities on your site, you know what to do. Okay, so this is something that, and that all has to evolve from your analysis, and that will come through drawings. Okay, hum to architects hai, we talk through language of drawings. Please don't write sagas there. The drawing has to come out so that it kind of gives you an idea that these are the streets, these are the heavy density street, this is one-way traffic, two-way traffic. There are numerous ways of representation. I'm not going to say them because then it will be like spoon feeding, but there are numerous questions, and how do you and put it into a drawing pattern concise. I mean, do not make 7 drawings of just traffic, so keep that in mind. Okay, so is public access nearby? What is the density of the traffic? Is the density creating a congestion? Is this a junction area? Is my site on the junction? I mean, on that kya bolte hai, corner site hai, where the junction is happening, and if there is a congestion, what are you going to do? And say you are planning a public kind of a building where there is an auditorium, and it just comes out. And imagine during the rush hour, 6 o'clock, one of the show has opened, and the people spill out, and there is already very congestion. So these are some of the questions that you will need to consider when you start planning. Okay, type of the road. Okay, the types, whether your site is facing the service road, or whether it's an artery road, or whether it's a highway. Okay, imagine building on a Western Express Highway. Okay, so many buildings are coming up there, right? So depends on what kind of roads, what kind of traffic it handles. You need to be aware of how you handle your traffic within the site and how that traffic is spilled out. Okay, so all these precautions, and these are just few of the questions I'm asking. Please, यही question लेके आगे मत बढ़ना. तुम्हारी साइड के लिए pertinent questions आपको पूछना है. Okay, so these are just some of the drawings that one has to do. So zoning hota hai, is your site on a, and you won't be able to see it because it's very one panel of the drawing that I got, but I just like the color and the way you see the kind of maps that they are planned out. And if you see one of our, any of our design cell programs, you will see that these kind of analysis help you to arrive at a good solution for the site, because it kind of kya bolte hai, it gives a crystal clarity of the issues existing within the site, and issues could be manifold. Okay, cannot be just related to ecology. Since we are doing EVS, ऐसा नहीं है कि हम सिर्फ ecology की बात करते हैं. That's why I said social and economic is equally important, that and you need to take that into consideration. And when I say social, आप सोचोगे okay only social, but social infrastructure भी होती है कुछ चीज, right? So there, that's where you start talking about facilities and amenities, and amenities comes into two different parts: social amenities and physical amenities. So where you know that physical amenities, there are 5 kinds that you need to take care of: electricity, solid waste, sewage, water, what else? Yeah, so these are the things that will come under the physical amenities. While social, is there a temple nearby? If there is a community, is there a cemetery nearby? Nobody will think of a death ground, but yeah, it's an important amenity, right? मुझे अगर रात को दूध चाहिए तो is there a convenience store nearby? Okay, so it all depends where you are. So all these data, आप सोचोगे how will it help, but it will really help you to come up with a good program. And we have seen the results. Okay, over the period of time, all the theses that have gone under us, we have seen that if a good analysis there, program emerges beautifully. Versus somebody who just have an idea कि मुझे तो ना यही करना है, doesn't matter where the site is. It doesn't work out, right? So these are some of the examples of what the people have done, okay, depending on what they were planning. So figure ground क्यों करोगे आप? Why will you do a figure ground if you are planning, say a school? Versus you are planning a say क्या बोल सकते हैं, a hub for say a bus and railway junction. So there you will have the larger scale of the projects. You need to understand how that larger scale of project is sitting within that. Probably there, if you do the, but a tiny school, say you are doing a school for blind, if that is your project, figure ground is not really going to help you. So according to what you want, you will do the analysis. So these are just some of the examples, okay, where some of the diagrams will enhance the green space. If your entire thesis is revolving around open spaces versus city, or built versus unbuilt, and then some issues are being raised or questions are being asked, then accordingly you will have to prepare those kind of maps. I hope I'm clear. And this is the example that I was talking about. Okay, this is in US. Okay, I think there is a lag. You guys are not seeing this yet, right? So this is the Brock Environmental Center. This is in US. This is Chesapeake Bay. One of the very important kind of environmental sensitive area. Why? You can see this black line here. Can you see my cursor? Okay. Do you see this black line? ये जो black line है, it is anticipated shoreline. Bye. Take care. Yeah. It is the anticipated shoreline. That means the water, this much part of the land is going to get submerged. Okay. And it is expected that this area is going to be submerged within 2030 or beyond. Okay, no, beyond that, I mean. So to protect this area, okay, they have come up with a small intervention, and the reason of doing this intervention was this area. Okay, and इधर लिखा है ना, pleasure house. Okay, so what the planning was, some years back, there was this idea of developing this entire bay, because it does have a very scenic kind of a beauty, and a lot of builders were eyeing this area. Okay, now imagine already this place is going under sea, and you are suggesting a housing proposal there. Now to discourage them, okay, so there is this foundation. Okay, it's an NGO known as Chesapeake Bay Foundation. Okay, they imagined that if we convert this area into something very public, the public will have the outcry, which will stop these kind of this kind of massive degrading kind of development that is going to happen on the bay, and it will impact environment and basically keep safe this area. So that was the whole idea behind this. And you can see it has a lot of these mangroves, it has a lot of these kind of what do you say, plantation. Okay, so the idea was to create a center which will be outreaching people in terms of education, awareness, telling them about what not to do in this area and what all possibilities can happen within this area, even if the sea rises. Okay, so the whole program was the outreaching program. This is basically to reach out to public and kind of creating an awareness, and that means the program has to invite people in. Okay, now if you are inviting people and not giving facility, that doesn't make sense. So they created classrooms there, conference rooms there, so that people would come there, they would sit there, they would listen to the people, look at the kind of environment around, and the whole thing was planned in a way where the awareness was given in terms of visual as well as oral, so that's how the entire planning was done. This is basically the site targets which the architect has planned. Okay, some of the targets were the safety of the building. Okay, how do you keep your building safe, secure, not only from the burglars but even from the from the sea. And basically, if you see, the whole building is raised. Okay, so even if there is a inundation that happens during the rains here or during the snowing when it melts, some cases of inundation did happen some years back, and so to protect the building, okay, from the natural elements, the whole building is raised up. The another idea of raising the building up was to secure the ground, so there was minimum harm done to the soil, and the whole building is raised up. Okay, the sustainability factor we will discuss later on, because so many factors were taken into consideration when this target was kept in mind. Functional, definitely, it proved to be a great value to the surrounding community. Not only it gave them a place to come here, let their kids be out. So K-12, you saw in the previous slide, K-12 class. Okay, they have a grade over there. So 12th grade children would be coming here, learning about ecology, hands-on. Okay, so especially if you educate your children, they say that you get better citizens. So similar kind of strategy is adopted here, where they mostly schools are invited here. So that's how the outreach happens. Okay, so extremely functional, extremely helpful to the communities. It is very accessible. You saw in the previous plan. If you want, I can take it back. And sorry. Okay, so you can see that यहाँ पे लिखा है bus stop. There is a lag. Okay, so you can see that there is a bus stop planned here. Okay, there are these car parks planned here, so you can come via. There are two bus stops nearby. Okay, I cannot read actually, but one is the bus stop. Okay, other is the parking. So and cycling is also there. So
Meena, you want me to read for you?
Yeah, please do. I'm not
Yeah,
having my
so first
screen
is
up there.
basically the bus drop off. The second one is the pedestrian entrance, which is being shown. Okay, then is the remote city parking.
Okay.
Then comes your community neighbors, which is, there is a cul-de-sac on the right-hand side, the first icon. It talks about the community neighbors.
Yeah,
And
this
then
one.
it's the boat pier and the dock, which is right where your Crab Creek is.
Yes, यहाँ पे.
Over
Thanks,
to you,
Kimaya.
Meena.
Yeah, thanks. So this basically gives so it assures that there is a public accessibility. So if some kids have to come and they don't have the car, the buses are available. They can cycle here. Okay, they can come by their cars. They can come by the boats. So there are these public accessibility which I already talked about, and I gave you an example of what can happen when such kind of things happen. And Sandeep will agree with me when I say the same thing happens at the LTT station, which is right bang opposite to where I stay. Okay, my place to the LTT station is actually walkable. If I don't have someone with me, I can actually walk out. But when I come from anywhere outside Bombay and I drop down there, even if I have to come to my place, which is like 10 minutes, okay, they charge me 150 bucks. So it's like atrocious. But this is exactly what happens when they know that we are the only people who are going to operate and be facilitating you. So this is something that you should avoid when you are choosing your site. Yeah, aesthetics, obviously I'm not going to speak. Cost effective, I'm not going to speak. And historic prevention, in this case the historic prevention was of the site. There are no historic buildings around, okay, but they wanted to keep the essence of the site, the ecology, the mangrove that was growing around, okay, and the native plants that had there. They wanted to keep that intact, okay, and that was how the site was chosen. And the intervention, if you see, is minimal, okay. It's a very sleek, chota sa hai, and most of the classrooms are happening outside in the field. There is only one conference that is planned for 80 people, and that's the only gathering space. Baki, otherwise it can become into a whole school of awareness, right, where you have 5 6 classes and this and that and workshops and this and all that thing can happen. That's why we say, when you are talking about do not harm, either you cluster the building, go up, or you make a very sleek kind of intervention. And like what they did, they completely raised the building. So in all which way they have achieved the target of do not harm the site. This area also experiences one of the highest rates of sea level rise, okay, along the entire US East Coast. Okay, that is another reason why they wanted to do something about this area. Okay, right. Next slide, and this is, we are talking about the sustainable goal and some of the ways where they have taken care of. So you can see this 1 2 3 4 5. Can you read it? Okay, 1 minute. Okay, I'm zooming this. Okay, now can you see this? Okay, and I did not know this in the previous, otherwise I would not have taken help of Kimaya. Okay, so this is a rooftop catchment. We all see this is here. Okay, second one is the gutter and the downspout that we did in the second year. Remember? So यहाँ पे से आपका पानी नीचे gutter से जाता है. Pani will come here. The third one is the place where you have the first wall, first flushing wall. Okay, plus first flush divert. You know what is this, right? When the first rain falls, I need to divert the rain out because it's dirty. The roof is dirty of the 9 months of not having rain. So yes, so I need to do that. Okay, so that is this. Then the fourth one, from there the water will go into the fourth. Okay, that is nothing but a cistern or a tank, which is 2 1650 gallon cisterns with ozone circulation. Ozone gives it, means that this place can, I mean, it can even drink this water. Okay, filtration skid is a place where they are showing all this filtration, how the water is filtered. So various layers are there. Pre-filter is there, 4 log charge of the membrane filter. So we talked about those filtration processes, right? In we simplified the process by saying that you have charcoal filter, but when you are actually making filtration for drinking purposes, you need to introduce lot many other members, or you get the ready-made filters that are available in the market. Okay, finally, sorry, fifth one is the filtration skid that we saw. Then we have pressure tanks. Okay, these are some of the tanks or the system that was used to push the water by its own. Maybe because there was no gravity enough, because it's not the height, and so they had to use a little bit of pressure. So they are known as the pressure tanks, which we already did in the second year. Drinking fountains, sinks, shower, all these were planned in a manner where the water can be easily taken out in the shortest possible manner. So those are all 7 is here, so that the water goes to them, okay, at one place and not everywhere. So even the running of the pipes was contained to just one area. Composting toilets were used instead of the normal toilets, so no ICs and everything was there required on the site. Everything would compost on site and distributed on site, completely eliminating the need for IC and DC. Okay. Rainwater, grey water filtration garden, which we'll be doing it. What is leachate holding tank? Anything that comes out of this, okay, as a leachate, because it's a filtration tank. Remember, filtration will have some dirt. So if I have to give out that dirt, it will also require back flush, right? Remember the filtration we did in the second, third year? So there is a back flush required to clean those filters. So back flush ka jo pani hai, that will come and be hold here, and that can be used for landscape. Okay, so that's how they utilize each and every drop of water that fell on their site, on the building, through these kind of methods. So even the backflush of the water was not wasted. So this was how they started talking about sustainable, achieving sustainable targets. And believe me, if you if you want, I can post the link of this site. You can go and actually see that the targets were achieved, plus they created so much of extra kind of energy that now they are distributing to the other side. So that was, they went beyond the targets, and I think that's, I guess, a very successful design. Hmm? The next slide is talking about, so this is what basically the whole site is all about. This is the plan. Why is it not changing? Okay, so I was telling you, it's a very sleek looking plan. Ekdami, very thin kind of a thing, and all these black thing you see are the solar panels. Okay, so actually they are using a lot of solar panels, which is contributing to almost all the kind of energy that is being utilized here. Plus, you will see again, the whole of the building is designed for complete natural daylight. This thing, so minimum daylight. I mean, sorry, lighting load is there. Plus, ventilation and cooling and heating is adjusted with the natural ventilation. So, as far as possible, building is naturally ventilated. But then, this being in a colder region, it does tend to cool very fast, and kind of temperature drops terribly. They need to heat up the building, but those loads are again partly taken care by the solar as well as by the other regenerable, energy. This thing. So this was how the entire thing is planned. Okay. This is again another section where they are doing a climatic analysis, where they are saying that this is how the wind is passing through. I'm not seeing the change. There is a lag. I guess it's on my side. So remember the thing we said about regenerative, that principle of site planning. This is exactly that. Creating an environmental regenerative was one of the targets. Okay, and it kind of क्या बोलते हैं, and also it adhered to the policy that they adopted for the site, where they say that we want to have this kind of output once the building is done. Okay, so that was, so a very I would say iterative kind of a design process, which was actually based on simulation. Okay, which I am in design builder, which Kimaya taught you in second year. If I don't know whether you guys practice, but it kind of, you do the simulation for daylight, for the kind of wall window ratio that you would want. Okay, so all those simulations were done. The analysis was done to come out with the idea that I need this much of windows on this facade, that much of window on that facade. So that kind of idea gave them the strategies to come out with the regenerative process that we already talked about. Okay, so yeah, so these were some of the simulation, embodied energy, salvage, and this was amazing. Salvage material. Okay, amazing kind of materials that have been used. So all the fittings that happened in the toilets. Okay, like bib cocks hai, pillar cocks hai, your WCs. Okay, were taken from the, you have those garage sales there where little bit defected, not garage, actually garage is a different kind of a concept there, but in India we have factory sale. Okay, now factory sale are something where a little defect is noticed and then it is given out for sale. So when you have that kind of thing, the products are pretty cheap. Okay, it's not that the product is bad. Okay, but little chipping has happened, and then when you do the quality control, because the brand is there, and you can't give out, if you are taking full money, then you can't give out. So the factory sales, you get very cheap kind of a stuff. Okay, with minimal kind of, like, not even noticeable if unless somebody points out to you. So that's why the factory sale happened. So they salvaged everything from those kind of sites. Okay, even the kind of materials they use for insulation, okay, came from the other sites where they were throwing it off, some insulation boards or something. They would use it, and whatever remains on the site would they push it back to the factories where the other insulation material were being planned. So very highly, I would say, kind of material salvaged material was used. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, I guess that's it. And life cycle costing approach. So HVAC system that was adopted was completely. They have the kind of approach where a minimum kind of timing they would use the HVAC system. The rest of the time, because of the insulation, because of the kind of facade that they created, they would not require much of the HVAC. That was the concern and the life cycle costing they did, right? Some of the construction activities, this was what I was saying. And I would actually read out for you because this is really interesting. So we think about site targets once the building is done, okay? While the building is being done, nobody gives a thought, okay? While here, they thought about the energy targets, ecological targets, even when the building was being done, okay? So what they did was they hired these two huge photovoltaic kind of mobile photovoltaic trucks. They would stand on the site and they would supply most of the power. Otherwise, on the normal side, what would one do? You would take the power from the main lines, okay? Or pehle aap excess lete ho, BMC se lete ho, and then you kind of, otherwise if it's a blank site, okay, you need to get that power. Now how would you work your drills and everything to happen? So whatever, what they did was this, okay? So reduce fossil fuel and emission. Most of the kind of technology that they adopted did not have fossil fuel used in it. They were electrical or renewable sources were used. So all their tools came, electricity came from there. Okay, on-site construction powered by two mobile photovoltaic trucks, start to end engagement of the MEP consultants. Okay, so this is again, as I keep telling you, okay, uh, when you begin the idea of design, and if you are not clear about what goes where in a design, then you start putting things on later on. We all know what can happen with the aesthetics, with the time, with the cost, and with the output. Okay, so it is better that you consult the required people right from the beginning till the end. Okay, so there is no mistakes, chances of mistakes are eliminated, or I would say reduced. Chances of mistake kabhi eliminate nahi hota hai, okay? But they can be highly reduced, okay? And the project becomes very smooth kind of thing. Mostly salvage materials were used, which I already explained, okay? Reducing the waste on the site and reducing waste from other sites, okay? So that was the whole idea of making this more sustainable. Materials were optimized and repurposed, okay? In the sense, as I told you, some of the insulation material which they borrowed from the other salvage sites, where they brought in here, they used it, and when they realized कि अभी हमें नहीं चाहिए, so they did not just throw it away, okay? बाजू में था C, they could have very well disposed it, but they did not opt to, and that was what every one of us should do. They repurposed it, in the sense either they recreated another kind of a material or they send it back to the factory. They actually took the effort of hiring a truck, taking the material, sending it to the factory, wherever that factory was, and if they had to pay for it, they paid for it. Yeah, so that was a very conscious decision done by them. Concrete waste was used for the entry road, as you can see here in the previous picture where the sleek like building was there. So the entire entry road from the car park as well as from the bus depot, the whole two roads which allowed the people to enter into the site, was completely used by the concrete waste that was generated on some other sites. They broke it into parts by the drilling machines, again powered by the solar, and those kind of things, concrete chips were used as aggregates in the concrete, and that's how the road was done. Wood scraps were used for wall blocking. So wall blocking is again a kind of you make a wall out of the wood, especially in America. You do have the wooden usage of the wood because it's a good insulator, keeps the cold out and heat in. So that was the reason why they did use the wooden scraps that they got from the other sites. Okay. Foam insulation scraps were returned to the factory. Again, overall, more than 95% of the construction waste was recycled. So a very conscious effort and intentions were there even during the construction, and not just we all have targets, huh? My building will be under the lead, under the griha, or kya hai ki main have more knowledge about all these what do you call making star of the building, but uh, it's not just that, right? मुझे शायद I don't want the recognition, but at least the रात को when I sleep, I sleep a very good sleep when I say that my building is functioning without loading onto the other building, right? If there are people like that who would want like that, okay? So, and these are some of the buildings. These are just some of the views that it's there, okay? Where this is how the entire, this is the double height. You can see the light, you can see this interior completely lighted by natural lights. Of course they have lights, it's not that they don't have the lights. Okay, what if the building has to function at night? So they do have lights, but during the daytime they have to put minimum of the lights. Even that was why the length of the, I mean, sorry, the width of the building was constricted, because they did not, we say na ki when you put a daylight, it does not go beyond 6 feet, yani 2 meters. Beyond that andhera hota hai. So when I have light flooding from both sides, okay, chances of me getting light in a narrow building is far higher than in a very deep kind of a building. So consciously, the building was made like a strip rather than, because they wanted to incorporate these kind of targets. Okay, just some few other pictures. You can see the kind of light that comes in. Amazing. Okay. Both sides windows are there at the, so upar se clear stereo window hai, so you get that kind of a subdued light because it reflects from the ceiling, and these are acoustical panels that they are put up there, plus they are glazed panels, so kind of it hits and the whole kind of get the diffuse light, where direct light is got from the picture. Yeah. Hmm? Right, so this is it. Thank you so much. Hmm? But this is what all you will need to do when you plan out your site. Hmm? Any questions?
Class, any questions you all have regarding anything? Doesn't look like me now.
It was quite clear actually. uh,
Yeah, actually, it was very clear. So, yeah. Anything, Sandeep, you want to add?
God, I'm talking since 8 o'clock.
Yeah, actually, I got a break because we took it today. I was like that last week. ठीक है. So, Shmeena, should we close this now?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much.